यमुनातीरावनचारी वनचारी जय राधा माधव जय कुंज विहारी राधा माधव जय कुंज विहारी। श्रीपाद की जय। हरे कृष्ण। Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 10, entitled Bhagavatam is the answer to all questions. Verse number 4. Sthitir Vaikunta Vijaya Poshanam Tat Anugraha Manvantarani Saddharma Utayah Karma Vasanaha Sthitir Vaikunta Vijaya Poshanam Tat Anugraha Manvantarani Saddharma Utayah Karma Vasanaha Sthitir Vaikunta Vijaya Poshanam Tat Anugraha Manvantarani Saddharma Utayah Karma Vasanaha Sthitir Vaikunta Vijaya Poshanam Tat Anugraha Manvantarani Saddharma Utayah Karma Vasanaha Sthitir Vaikunta Vijaya Poshanam Tat Anugraha Manvantarani Saddharma Utayah Karma Vasanaha Sthitir Vaikunta Vijaya Poshanam Tat Anugraha Manvantarani Saddharma Utayah Karma Vasanaha Sthitir Vaikunta Vijaya Poshanam Tat Anugraha Manvantarani Saddharma Utayah Karma Vasanaha. Matajis. Sthitir Vaikunta Vijaya Manvantarani Saddharma Utayah Karma Vasanaha. Sthitihi, the right situation. Vaikunta Vijaya, victory of the Lord of Vaikunta. Poshanam, maintenance. Tad Anugraha, his causeless mercy. Manvantarani, the reign of the Manus. Saddharma, perfect occupational duty. Utayah, impetus to work. Karma Vasanaha, desire for fruitive work. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. The right situation for the living entity is to obey the laws of the Lord and thus be in the perfect peace of mind under the protection of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Manus and their laws are meant to give right direction in life. Impetus for activity is a desire for fruitive work. Purport. This material world is created, maintained for some time, and again annihilated by the will of the Lord. The ingredients of the creation and subordinate creator, Brahma, are first created by Lord Vishnu in his first and second incarnations. The first Purusha incarnation is Mahavishnu, and the second Purusha incarnation is the Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, from whom Brahma is created. The third Purusha avatar is Kshirodakshaya Vishnu, who lives as a super soul of everything in the universe and maintains the creation generated by Brahma. Shiva is one of the many sons of Brahma, and he annihilates the creation. Therefore, the original creator of the universe is Vishnu, and he is also the maintainer of the created beings by his causeless mercy. As such, it is a duty of all conditioned souls to acknowledge the victory of the Lord and thus become pure devotees and live peacefully in this world, where miseries and dangers are always in existence. The conditioned souls who take this material creation as a place for satisfaction for the senses and thus are illusioned by the external energy of Vishnu remain again to be subjected to the laws of the material nature, creation and destruction. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is said that beginning from the topmost planet of this universe down to the lowest planet, Patala Loka, all are destructible, and the conditioned souls may travel in space either by good or bad work or by modern spacecraft, but they are sure to die everywhere. Although the duration of the life is in the different planets is different, the only means to attain the eternal life is to go back home, back to Godhead, where there is no more rebirth as in the material planets. The conditioned souls, being unaware of this very simple fact because of the forgetting their relationship with the Lord of Vaikunta, try to plan out a permanent life in this material world, being illusioned by the external energy. They thus become entangled in various types of economic and religious development, forgetting that they are meant for going back home, back to Godhead. This forgetfulness is so strong due to the influence of the Maya that the conditioned souls do not at all want to go back to Godhead. By sense enjoyment, they become victims of birth and death repeatedly and thus spoil human lives, which are chances for going back to Vishnu. The directive scriptures made by the Manus in different ages and millenniums are called Sadharma, good guidance for the human beings, who should take advantage of all the revealed scriptures for their own interest to make life successful termination. The creation is not false, but it is temporary manifestation just to give a chance for the conditioned soul to go back home Godhead. The desire to go back to Godhead and functions performed in that direction form the right path of work. When such a regulative path is accepted, the Lord gives all protection to his devotees by his causeless mercy, while the non-devotees risk their own activities to bind themselves in the chain of fruitive reactions. The word Sadharma is significant in this connection. Sadharma, or duty performed for going back to Godhead and thus becoming his unalloyed devotee, is the only pious activity. All other may pretend to be pious, but actually they are not. It is for this reason only that the Lord advises in the Bhagavad Gita that one give up all so-called religious activities and completely engage in the devotional service of the Lord to become free from all anxieties due to the dangerous life of material existence. To work situated in the Sadharma is the right direction of life. One's aim of life should be to go back home, back to Godhead, and not to subject to the repeated birth and death in the material world by getting good or bad bodies for temporary existence. Therein lies the intelligence of the human life, and one should desire for the activities of life in that way. Jai Shrupa. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Sri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamsha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nitinamine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Welcome everyone for the daily Bhagavatam class. So today we are discussing from the second canto, 10th chapter. Seeking blessings from all the Vaishnavas who are seated over here and all those who are listening online. Just try to speak something for my purification and for the pleasure of the devotees. So this topic was 10 topics of Bhagavatam is being discussed in this particular chapter over here. And yesterday, Pradyumna Mishra Prabhu has given very nice analysis of all the 10 topics. My presentation today may be a little bit repetition of that, but I feel Bhagavatam is the repetition of the Lord's glories, so this will be acceptable by the devotees. Please, thank you. So Bhagavatam starts in the first canto with the Suta Goswami and Shaunaka Rishis. Shaunaka Rishis, they ask, what is the essence of all the scriptures? And Suta Goswami, while answering various questions, he says, Bhagavatam is the essence, and I will speak Bhagavatam. And then he says, Bhagavatam was spoken by the Shukadeva Goswami to Parikshit Maharaj. And the entire first canto goes on in describing the events that led to the Bhagavatam. The why Parikshit Maharaj has to leave his body, and why he was sitting over there in the banks of Ganges, and why Shukadeva Goswami comes to give Bhagavatam. So the first canto is just description of the speaker of the Bhagavatam and the hearer of the Bhagavatam, and the events leading to the place where the Bhagavatam was spoken. So at the end of the first canto of the Bhagavatam, Parikshit Maharaj, the moment he sees Shukadeva Goswami coming in front, he asks two questions. What is the duty of the person who is about to leave the body, and what is the duty of a person in general? And Shukadeva Goswami directly starts answering. One should hear about the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One should glorify the Supreme Lord. One should not hear any mundane topics. So generally when somebody is speaking Bhagavatam, he starts with the Mangalacharan prayers. But it seems Shukadeva Goswami has not done any Mangalacharan prayers, and he just started the Bhagavatam. The first chapter, second chapter, third chapter, he establishes logically how bhakti is superior to karma, jnana, and even devata worship. And then The next Parikshit Maharaj asks for little more details about, and then he asks about speaking about the glories of the Lord. And this time, the fourth chapter, we see Shukadeva Goswami goes into a long list of prayers. So it is like Shukadeva Goswami offering Mangalacharan. And then he is starting the Bhagavatam that he is going to speak. But in the fifth chapter, Shukadeva Goswami says this Bhagavatam was first spoken by Brahmaji to, this Bhagavatam was spoken by Brahma to Narada. Chapter 5, chapter 6, chapter 7 is just description of Bhagavatam, discussion of Bhagavatam between Brahmaji and Narada. And then 8th chapter, Parikshit Maharaj asks a long list of questions. And then Shukadeva Goswami starts again describing the first way, at the very beginning when the Bhagavatam was spoken. That is by the Lord Vishnu to Brahma himself. It was spoken in the 4 verses. So, and that is the 9th chapter. And then this 10th chapter is starting over here. And at the end of the 9th chapter, Shukadeva Goswami says, this is that Bhagavatam which contains the 10 topics. And then now I will speak about the Bhagavatam. So one logical question comes, did Bhagavatam start or not? There is an introduction of the Bhagavatam, who is the speaker, and then Shukadeva Goswami is telling Bhagavatam was spoken there, Bhagavatam was spoken here. So there is a thought, it says ki Bhagavatam has not begun till the 3rd canto. Because at the end of the 2nd canto, there are 10 topics are described, and from the 3rd canto, the actual Bhagavatam is starting. And then, to some things to substantiate that, even Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur gives a long list. He maps each canto to each topic. The 3rd canto describes about the Sarga, that is the creation. There is a Brahmaji, how he created, how the various ingredients have been created from the Vishnu. They are described in 3rd canto. And the 2nd topic is Visarga, how Brahmaji is creating. So that comes afterwards in the 4th canto, the Brahma's creation, and then the creation and the progeny made by Daksha, that is all described in the 4th canto. And the 5th canto describes about the various places in this universe. The whole universal structure is being described. So that is mapped as Sthanam, the place. And the 6th canto is said to be the description of the Posanam, the nourishment that the Supreme Lord is giving. The description of Ajamil and Chitraketu, they are there. And the 7th topic, that is the Uti, is said to be described in the 7th canto is said to be describing the 5th topic, that is Uti, the impetus for activities. And the 8th canto describes various Manvantaras. And the 9th canto describes the various dynasties of kings. We have all the solar dynasty, lunar dynasty being described in the 9th canto. And then 10th canto describes the Ashraya Tattva, Krishna, and the 11th canto describes Mukti, how one can get liberation from this material world. The entire Uddhava Gita, it gives various process. And the 12th canto describes Nirodha, the dissolution. So like this, the entire 12 cantos of Bhagavatam, from starting to the 3rd to the 12th, can be given each name to these 10 cantos. And the canto 1 can be said as just a prelude, the setting the scene. And the canto 2 can be said as just a introduction. So, but there is a catch over here. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur also writes this, but when we go back, when we tend to divide cantos as per the various topics of Bhagavatam, so one thought that comes to the materially conditioned mind, and that too specifically the Kali Yuga mind, is only some topics are there in some cantos and other topics are not there in the other cantos. And as devotees, we all want to learn about Krishna. That is the 10th topic, Ashraya Tattva. So people generally say, let us go to directly to the 10th canto. Why do we have to bother ourselves with all this remaining topics? So Jiva Goswami says, this is an offensive mentality to say that some topics are there only in some cantos, and some cantos are only pointing out to only some topics. So Jiva Goswami says that all the 10 topics are being described throughout Bhagavatam, and all topics are available everywhere. So even to that point, Sridhar Swami, who has written the first Bhagavatam commentary, he also writes that 10th canto, which is actually the Ashraya Tattva, the Supreme Personality of Krishna, is being described, where we have to take shelter. So at the beginning, it seems he writes, the 10th canto also describes about the Nirodha, the dissolution, the winding up of the whole creation. He says, how is that? He says, when Krishna is killing all the demons, he is liberating all the demons. The 12th canto describes out the 4 kinds of liberation. The 4th kind of liberation is when the living entity goes back home, back to Godhead. And here in the 4th canto, in the 10th canto, when Krishna is killing all the demons, they are getting liberated. He says the Nirodha, the dissolution, is also there in the 10th canto. So like this, the Acharyas, they present all the topics are present in all the cantos in some degree or the other. But still, even Jiva Goswami also lists out that some cantos majorly present some of the topics. So the whole question is, why are you discussing these 10 topics of creation, Sarga, Visarga, Sthanam, Posanam, Uti? Why can't we directly discuss about Krishna? Bhagavatam is Amalam Puranam. It is supposed to speak about the glories of the Supreme Lord. So it is said that actually there is only one topic in the Bhagavatam. It is not that there are some 10 different topics. The one topic in Bhagavatam is just about Krishna. From the beginning to the end, the Krishna is being glorified. So that's how the Bhagavatam is also, the speciality of Bhagavatam is also mentioned. From the starting to the ending, the activities of the Lord are again and again repeatedly glorified. So we see the glorification of Krishna right in the first canto, where the description of Dwarakavasi's prayers and Krishna going from Hastinapur to Dwaraka, they have been described. Kunti Maharani's prayers have been described. So like that, right from the starting canto 1, the Ashraya Tattva, where we are supposed to take shelter, that has been described. So in the second verse of this chapter, it says, Dashamartha Vishuddhartham Navanam Iha Lakshanam Varnayanti Mahatmana Srutena Arthena Anjasa. So what is the purpose of describing the 10 different topics is mentioned in this second verse. Dashamasya Vishuddhartham, to isolate the 10th topic. So because the Bhagavatam is presenting the supreme absolute truth, not any sub-religious principles. And the supreme absolute truth is the supreme personality of Godhead. He is also a person. And in this material world, we are also persons. And the moment if somebody starts describing the activities of the personality of Krishna, the one simple misunderstanding that any living entity will get is, oh, Krishna is also like me, any other living entity in this world. So the 10 topics, the remaining 9 topics are being described with a solo purpose to say that how Krishna is different from all the other living entities. He is not somebody who is under this creation, but somebody who is giving shelter to all this creation. So all the Sarga, Visarga, Sthanam, the creation, the secondary creation, the maintenance of this material world, all these topics are being described to just show that Krishna is the shelter of all these topics. So Bhagavatam also presents the Krishna in a very wonderful ways also. So there is a description of creation going on. Brahmaji is praying to the Supreme Lord for the power to create. And in the third canto we will see the Brahmaji sees the Lord Vishnu, and then he goes into long list of prayers. The third canto of the third chapter of ninth chapter of third canto, which is long list of Brahmaji's prayers. So through the prayers which are coming in this creation, secondary creation, all these topics, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is again and again glorified. So that is one way he is glorified. And in second way that Krishna is again and again brought into the picture of Bhagavatam is the discussion between the two great Vaishnavas. So in the third canto we will come across the Vidura and Maitreya Uddhava and Vidura, they meet. And then they start discussing about the pastimes of Krishna. The third canto is supposed to be the creation description, but the first two chapters they start with the wonderful pastimes of Krishna. So like that, the Krishna's pastimes are being brought about in the Bhagavatam. And then the one more way the Bhagavatam brings about the Krishna element is by various description of the pastimes. By describing various pastimes, the pastimes of Krishna are also described, and how Krishna is protecting each and every devotee, and like that Krishna has been described. So like that the sole purpose of the whole Bhagavatam is just to present the 10th topic, that is Ashraya, that is the shelter, the place where we are supposed to take shelter. Because in this material world, we tend to take shelter in so many things. Somebody takes shelter in making money. Somebody will take shelter in having followers. Somebody will take shelter in following proper dharma. I am a very religious person, and then people may take shelter in being a religious person. So all these different elements in which a living entity tends to take shelter are being presented as ultimately sheltered by Krishna. So that's how all these 10 topics they come. So in the purport also Prabhupada, so one more point over comes here. What is the purpose of describing all these things? Why can't just tell surrender to Krishna? That should be sufficient. Everybody should surrender to Krishna by the instruction of the scriptures. But the point is, Bhagavatam is trying to evoke the dormant love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And love cannot be enforced on someone. It cannot come by somebody's force. Love cannot be evoked by giving some material facilities inside various desires fulfilling. The real love will not come. The real love will not even come from the sense of duty or gratitude and all. The love is something very deep where one hears the pastimes of the Lord and just gets attracted to the wonderful activities and pastimes of the Lord. So that's how the Bhagavatam has to present lot of pastimes. So in the Bhagavad Gita, towards the end, the Krishna's final instruction is Sarva Dharman Parityajya Mamekam Sharanam Vraja. So you surrender, give up all the dharma and just surrender unto me. And Krishna says, I will give you complete shelter. So Krishna is assuring shelter, but he is asking for a demand. You should first of all surrender. And any person before surrendering, he will ask, how can I surrender without knowing whether he will give me shelter or not? And Krishna is asking you first surrender. So which one will come first? Will the shelter comes first or the surrender of the devotee? Does it come first? So Bhagavatam says, the knowledge of the shelter that Krishna has given to other living entities, that can come first. So Krishna will give us shelter only when we surrender to Krishna. But we have lot of instances where Krishna has previously given shelter to others and protected. So by going through all these descriptions, so a living entity develops a desire to finally surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So without any fear of losing something, without any desire for gaining something, not with the fear, not with the desire, not with the duty, but with the pure love. So that's how the various 10 topics of Bhagavatam are being presented just to present the final topic of Krishna. Is called as Ashraya Tattva, the place where we are supposed to take shelter. So for today's verse, we have 4 topics that which are presented over here. Sthanam, Posanam, Uti and Manvantara. So we just try to see a little bit description of these topics in whatever time we have. This Sthiti Vaikunta Vijayam. Sthiti is the Sthanam portion. It says Vaikunta Vijayam, the victory of the Lord of Vaikunta. So initially, the creation is described, and then the secondary creation has been mentioned. The creation is when the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, gives all the ingredients for creating, and Brahmaji uses all these ingredients to create the whole world. So now the next description is how this world is being established and how this world is running in that particular position. So that is a description, that is a topic that which is mentioned as Sthanam. And Bhagavatam says how the world is running. It is running because of the protection given by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or the victory of the Supreme Lord, Vaikunta. The play that when the Supreme Lord Vishnu is victorious, that is a time when the world will be in a rightful situation. So Prabhupada in the purport writes very wonderfully and brings out that point. Kshirodakshay Vishnu, Mahavishnu and Garbhodakshay Vishnu, they are instrumental in creation. And the third Vishnu, that is Kshirodakshay Vishnu, he comes again and again as various avatars to maintain the way proper dharma in this world. So creation is done by Brahmaji, annihilation is done by Vishnu, annihilation is done by Lord Shiva, and the maintenance, the most difficult part, that which is done by Vishnu. So Brahma can create and then take rest for some time. Shivji can take rest till the time when annihilation is going to happen. But Vishnu has to be always alert. Every time, every now and then, lot of demons keep on coming, and there is a lot of adharma that which is prevails, and Vishnu comes in various ways to establish the dharma in various incarnations. And this specifically that Krishna does is not just for the sake of devotees. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhyuthanam adharmasya tatatmanam srujamyaham. So there he says, whenever the dharma declines, I come to establish the dharma. Suppose if, say, somebody has helped a person a lot, and after some time, the person who received the help, he completely forgets. And he just says, oh, everything is actually done by me only, nobody helped me. If somebody presents like that, the person who has helped will feel completely disheartened. So, but here we have Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, who is again and again coming and establishing dharma and helping everyone. And his world is filled with lot of atheists and people who are going against the Supreme Lord and people who does not bother about the Supreme Lord. But still, the Lord again and again comes and establishes the dharma. So he doesn't bother whether a person is my devotee or not, but still he says the dharma has to be established in this particular world. So that is about the sthanam. So that's why it is said that the determination of the Supreme Lord to run this material world is actually the cause why this material world is still running. So in the third chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, I don't have any duties to perform. Still, I perform various duties just to set example for the common living entities. So like that, Krishna, even though he has nothing to gain from this material world, even though the people are going against him, still he again comes to establish the dharma, and that's why this world is still going on. So specifically it says, so that is first part of the Lord establishing the dharma in this world. So now Prabhupada very wonderfully writes over here, and is also presented by other acharyas also. So when the Supreme Lord is doing his part of establishing the dharma, what should be the responsibility of the living entities? He says they should be grateful to the Supreme Lord, and they should follow the orders of the Supreme Lord, the dharma given by the Supreme Lord. So at least one may not become a pure devotee of the Lord. At least don't create havoc in this world. Just follow the dharma that which is given. At least follow the dharma. At least that will be a proper thing. So to this extent, and the fifth canto of Bhagavatam says it presents the various places. It presents the Jambudvipa, all the different varshas in the Jambudvipa, Bharata Varsha, Ailavrata Varsha. It just presents the whole geography of the entire 14 this Bhumandal. And then what does it present? It says in every Varsha, in every place, what the people are doing, they are just glorifying the Supreme Lord. So the Bhagavatam is not intended to present the geography of this world, but the purpose of the Bhagavatam is to say that what the people in that particular geographical location are doing. And Bhagavatam just says, they are all actually worshipping Supreme Lord. So why not you also worship? You also start worshipping the Supreme Lord. And then when these living entities, they acknowledge the protection given by the Supreme Lord, and when they say Jai Jaikar to the Supreme Lord, that is their rightful position. That is how they are properly situated in this material world. So it says, so the sthanam is essentially the protection given by the Lord in general to the entire world. So next topic comes is about the Posanam, the nourishment that Supreme Lord is giving. So in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Samoham sarva bhuteshu. So I am equal to all living entities. And in the very shloka he says, Ye bhajanti tu mam bhaktya mai te teshu chapyaham. So at first line he says, I am equal to everyone. Nobody I love or nobody I envy. And in the next line he says, I have special affection for the devotees. So this is apparently a contradictory statement, but still in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, all the contradictions are solved. So one way you understand is, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is not like a stone. He is also a person who reciprocates. So when a devotee comes in front of the Lord and wants to express his love, the Supreme Personality of Godhead has to reciprocate, and that is the way he has to give love to the devotee who is approaching. So that is a proper reciprocation. So Krishna cannot say that I am equal, so I cannot show love to the devotee. So when Krishna shows love to the devotee, it is not being partial, it is just being reciprocal. And here, Posanam is specifically about that. At one side, he is giving protection to all the living entities, but at the same time, for his devotees, he is giving a special nourishment. So, at one side, it comes specifically about the sixth canto of Bhagavatam. There are a lot of pastimes which are being mentioned over here. So, first pastime in the sixth canto starts with Ajamil. The person who is completely sinful, But at the end of his life, he has just chanted the names of Narayana once, and then he got protection from going to hell. So not only that, he got a realization also. He saw the Vishnu Dutas, he understood the glories of the devotional service, he gave up the sinful activities, and then he took up to the proper full devotional service. So just by taking the holy names of the Lord, how even a sinful person can be nourished and go back home, back to Godhead, that's presented over there. So Bhagavatam also, specifically 6th canto, presents the nourishment that Supreme Lord is giving to Chitraketu Maharaj. Chitraketu Maharaj was attached to lot of material activities in the kingly duties. He was very much disturbed that he does not have a son. And then Narada Muni goes and he gives instructions. Angira Muni goes and he gives he tricks him. And then eventually Chitraketu Maharaj becomes such a pure devotee of the Lord. So when he was as a Vidyadhara planet, and he is just traveling on the aeroplane, and eventually he got cursed by Mother Parvati herself, he does not get disturbed. He just says, in this whole world where is controlled by the modes, what is the question of a shapa, the curse, or what is to be called as a benediction? Everything is just a temporary thing. And he very gracefully accepts the curse given by Mother Parvati. So the question is, somebody who is so much disturbed when he does not have a son, now he has reached to a position where he is not at all disturbed when he is getting cursed to become a demon in the next life. So as Vritrasur in this next life also, he exhibits such a level of devotion that the Indra who is standing in front of Vritrasur appears like a demon, appears like a villain. And Vritrasur, who is in the form of a demon, he is the hero of the whole thing. Indra is trying to kill the Vritrasur and he is confused. I am killing a pure devotee of the Lord. The Vritrasur is completely undisturbed by the victory or the defeat that is happening in the battlefield, and completely focused in going back home, back to Godhead. So there we see, whatever be the external situation may be, the Supreme Personality of Godhead can nourish a devotee to such an extent that a devotee can take any amount of material sufferings. So that also comes about there. So this nourishment that Krishna gives to various devotees, it is evident in various pastimes of throughout the Bhagavatam also. Prahlad Maharaj is being troubled by his own father Hiranyakashipu, and apparently there is no support for Prahlad Maharaj. The Guru who has given him full instructions, Narada Muni, he is also not seen anywhere. He is completely alone. But still, the Prahlad Maharaj gets so much nourished by doing the devotional service that he is ready to stand in front and oppose the greatest tyrant of that time, Hiranyakashipu. So like this, and then we see the pastimes of Dhruva Maharaj. He goes on asking for the various boons from Vishnu, but after doing devotional service for just 6 months, he gets so much nourished that he just says, I have been looking for the broken pieces of glasses, but I have found a diamond in front of me. So I don't want any of this material facilities. So that's to the extent what the Supreme Personality of Godhead can nourish the devotees. That they can, they don't want any material facilities, and they are ready to they are ready to face any amount of material difficulties. So the next topic that which talked over here is called as Uti. Utayah Karma Vasana. So Utayah Karma Vasana, this is the fifth topic of the Bhagavatam, that which is there. And Uti just said as the various inclinations that a living entity has for performing a various activities. So now you can ask why a particular person is doing various activities. Somebody may say, I want that particular result, so I am doing. So they are saying, I am desirous of somebody, and they are doing. And somebody may say, I don't want anything, but I just want to serve the whole material world and just doing the activities. People may come up with various motives for which they are doing. But here the Bhagavatam presents Uti, the inclination, is actually the karma vasana, the impressions of the various karmic activities that which we have done in this material world. So to that extent, the Prabhupada also presents towards the end of the purport over here, there may be many people who pretend to be pious, but ultimately they are actually not. Because if they are not devotees of the Lord, if their piety is not guided by the devotion to the Supreme Lord, pure devotion to the Lord, so ultimately it is being guided by the karma vasana, the various material inclinations that which they have acquired. So some inclinations may be pious and some inclinations may be totally impious. So specifically this Utayah is said to be presented in the 7th canto of Bhagavatam. 7th canto of Bhagavatam presents the story of Prahlad Maharaj. So Prahlad Maharaj is being shown as somebody who has a pure inclination of serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is a auspicious inclinations. And then the other extreme that which is presented in 7th canto is the Hiranyakashipu, who has inauspicious inclinations. So two extremes are being presented. How a devotee can have an impetus to do devotional service under any circumstance, and then about the demon Hiranyakashipu, how somebody can have impetus to perform all the wrong activities. To what extent these impressions can take. And next, what these impressions, what these activities performed, what are the result of these activities? So what is the result of the activities performed, the devotional service performed by Prahlad Maharaj? As his name presents, he is Prakrishta Rupen Ahlad. He is completely peaceful. And the Hiranyakashipu, who is driven by the impious activities, he is not at all satisfied even after getting the 14 planetary systems under his control. So the result of these activities are also being presented in the Bhagavatam over there. And Bhagavatam in the 7th canto also presents the Varnashrama Dharma, that which is the people in general they follow. So somebody may say, I don't have pure inclinations like Prahlad Maharaj. Even I am not even a big demon like Hiranyakashipu. So I am somewhere in between. What am I supposed to do? So the next 5 chapters of, the last 5 chapters of 7th canto, it presents Varnashram Dharma. So how a living entity being situated in his position in the Varnashram, how he can follow the devotional service, how he can improve from that stage. So Prabhupada also presents here very nicely, very emphatically in this verse purport, that by doing the material activities one will again and again suffer in this material world. So that is a little bit about the Utayah. So of course this is Utayah. The inclinations are being presented in various other places of Bhagavatam also. So at one place it is said that a living entity, he desires some particular activity, desires something, and he does a particular activity, and from that particular activity so many other desires are being generated. So activity, a karmic activity done by a living entity is compared to a tree, and from that tree what comes? So many fruits they come, and every fruit has one more seed within it, and that particular seed will give rise to one more bigger tree. So like that, the karmic activities that which are doing, they're again and again cause our birth and death in this material world. So, it is there. And the next topic that which is given in this particular verse is about the Manvantara. So we know there are 14 Manus in the day of Brahma. So each Manu has 71 Divya Yugas, Satya, Treta, Dwapara and Kali. So all these Yuga cycles, 71 times, they forms one Manvantara cycle. And like that there will be 14 Manus. So currently we are in the 7th Manvantara. So 8th canto of Bhagavatam presents the entire list of all these Manus. Of course, from the starting of the 4th canto, the first Manu, the Swayambhu Manu is being described, his activities are being described till 5th canto. And in the 8th canto, the brief description of all these Manus and their activities and their ruling is being described. And while describing all this, we'll just take the names. Swayambhu Manu, Swarochisa Manu, Uttama, Tamasa, Raivasa, Chakshusha. So these are 6 Manus. And then the 7th is Shraddha Dev or Vaivashvata Manu. And then Bhagavatam also describes the coming 7 Manus also. Savarni, Daksha Savarni, Brahma Savarni, Dharma Savarni, Rudra Savarni, Deva Savarni and Indra Savarni. So what does this Manvantara refer to? Is it just a description of the histories that which are happening? No, here it is said Manvantara is Sadharma. So what is the proper dharma a particular living entity has to follow? That is the description of Manvantara. It is not just a list of events that which has happened in all these times. So we know we have something called as Manu Samhita. Of course, some people may not properly understand, but actually these are the codes given by the Manu. How a human being has to properly perform their duties. So in each Manvantara, the Manu gives what are the proper duties a particular living entity has to follow. So in each Manvantara, it is said that there are 6 personalities who establish this particular dharma. So first of all, there is Manu, and then there is Manu Putras, the sons of Manu. So we have Swayambhu Manu, and the sons of Swayambhu Manu are Uttanapad and Privrat Maharaj. So their activities have been described. So in the 7th Manvantara, we see it is dynasties of sun and dynasties coming from the sun and dynasties coming from the moon. So they are like the sons of Manu. And the 3rd personalities that which are responsible for maintaining the dharma is the Sapta Rishis. So all the Sapta Rishis also keep on changing in all the Manus, Manvantara periods. And then there is Indra, who is a personality who is ruling the heaven, and he is being assisted by the various Devatas. So Manu, Manuputras, Saptarishis, Indra, and the Devatas. They are the 5 personalities who are responsible for establishing dharma. And the 6th one is the Manvantara avatar. So in each Manvantara, the Supreme Personality of Godhead takes incarnation as a Manvantara avatar. So in the first Manvantara, Swayambhu Manu, he took incarnation as a Yajna. In the 2nd Manvantara, he took incarnation as a Vibhu. In 3rd Manvantara, he took incarnation as Satyasena. In 4th, he took incarnation of Lord Hari. And this Hari is the one who has protected Gajendra. So we know the famous pastime of Vishnu protecting Gajendra. So this is the 4th Manvantara incarnation who protected. And the 5th Manvantara, the Lord incarnates as Vaikunta. So in the 3rd canto of Bhagavatam, we hear the pastime of the 4 Kumaras entering into the Vaikunta. And he said that this is actually that Vaikunta. The Lord Vaikunta, the Manvantara avatar, he created the whole Vaikuntha within this world for the pleasure of Lakshmi Devi. And it said that that description is given in third canto, given. And then there is sixth Manvantara. The Manvantara avatar is Ajita, and he, for this pleasure, he performed the pastime of Samudra Manthan. So eighth canto we have a long description of Samudra Manthan of various pastimes. This is done by the sixth Manvantara incarnation. And the seventh, this current cycle, the Manvantara incarnation is Vamandev. So his activities are also been described. So like this, Manvantaras are described. So essentially, the various codes of conducts given by the Manu are ultimately meant for bringing a person to the pure devotional service, whether we rightfully understand it or not. The entire Vedic scriptures are meant to bring to the living entity to the point of devotional service. So Bhagavatam says, Dharma swanastita pumsha vishvakshena katasuyat na utpadayet yadiratim shravayevahi kevalam. If you follow all dharmas and if you don't get the love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, you have just wasted your life. So that's what it says. It means the purpose of all dharmas is to get the devotional service of the life. So there is one more verse which says, Vede Ramayanashcheva Purane Bharati Tata Adau Ante cha Madhye cha Hari Sarvatra Giyate. So in all the Vedic scriptures, in the Ramayana, in the Puranas, in the Mahabharata, from the beginning to the end, in the middle, everywhere, Lord Hari is been glorified. So it only needs a particular devotional inclination to really understand how the Lord is being glorified. Otherwise, people think various scriptures are meant for various purposes. So like this, the Sad Dharma essentially presents what a rightful dharma that we are supposed to do to get to the point of pure devotional service, so that we can ultimately transcend this material world and go back home, back to Godhead. So I just summarize what I just spoken. So we just seen the Bhagavatam is present in the current topic here is presenting 10 topics of Bhagavatam. Sukadeva Goswami is giving the list of 10 topics. It does not mean that there are 10 different chapters which are talking of 10 different points. But the whole point is, all these 10 points are ultimately pointing towards the one topic, that which is Krishna. And these 10 topics are present throughout the Bhagavatam. And then we have discussed little bit about all these 4 topics which are being present in this verse today. Thank you very much for your patient listening. ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय, श्री प्रभुपाद की जय।